All right, everyone, today I'm here with Josh Hewett, who is going to take us through a strength training program for boxing. Now, Josh's background is competitive powerlifting. Also, he's a physique athlete, and right now he is a personal trainer for general population, but also for combat athletes and combat competitors. So one thing that you guys have been asking about, and I haven't had any specific videos on, is strength training for boxing. How should you train strength training for boxing? Should you include it? What are the benefits, and maybe some of the potential things that you have to consider, not necessarily for limitations, but what other factors should you consider so it doesn't interfere with your boxing. And so today Josh is going to take me through a program. It's not going to be a complete program, but it's going to show you guys the different elements and phases of strength training for combat sports, for boxing. So
right, we're going to look at some of the fundamentals today for that. So this will give you guys some ideas so that when you're putting together your own programs, you can take these into consideration for some fundamentals, I guess, for designing your own program.
Josh, if you could sort of take us through what are the phases that we're going to go through in this strength training program? What are the considerations? You were telling me that there are about 3 general phases we're going to look at for strength training. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, you want to consider, like you said, strength training. So you want to train for strength. So the first element you want to take into consideration is how to develop a strong base before you start moving on to other elements of your training program. So we're going to look at some basic exercises and some principles related to getting strong. A strong athlete has more potential to be explosive and to move more quickly as well. So we want that base first. And we also want to look at then next is your explosiveness, your speed and power training. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can incorporate that into a program. And then finally, we're going to look at conditioning, or your endurance, your cardiovascular fitness, which is definitely important for combat athletes as well, but not the same as in a lot of other endurance sports. So we want to look at how we're going to address that a little differently for fighters.
So yeah, so we got 3 components there. We got the strength phase, we got the power phase, we got the conditioning phase.
Right.
Now, one thing that you were telling me about is that you want to train neuromuscular patterns, but you don't necessarily want to train resistance training with boxing technique.
Right. So this is one thing that I see a lot of fighters still doing, is they'll take fighting technical exercises and they'll just add load to it. So they'll do strikes with bands, or they'll do like uppercuts holding dumbbells because they saw it in a Rocky movie or whatever,
right.
And with heavy loads. Now the problem with this is it can throw off your movement patterns. It can actually disrupt your motor patterns.
The flow.
Right. So keep your technical training and your strength training separate. So if you're going to do your fighter training, your technical sparring and the pad work and work on the bag, do that with your coach, and then when you go into the gym to do your strength training, your speed power training, and your conditioning work, keep that separate. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a carryover from some of the exercises we're going to be doing today towards your fight, your training, your technical training, and towards your competition. So we're going to look at exercises that have a good carryover to your sport. Right. There's another a term that's thrown around a lot is functional exercise. So what exercises are most functional? I like to look at the term purposeful instead of functional. What exercises have a carryover for your purpose? In this case, to become a better fighter.
Yes.
So you don't have to necessarily look at doing things on a wobbly board or a Bosu ball or all these fancy unstable exercises because they're functional.
Right.
What exercises have a best carryover for your sport, or most purposeful for your sport? Ground-based exercises that incorporate the muscles you're going to use.
In looking at, after setting up the program and integrating the specific exercises, now I want to, as competitive athletes out there, fighters out there, are going to be wondering, how does that fit into their overall training? So let's say I'm going to take an average amateur boxer, maybe they're putting in 60 to 80 rounds a week, they're also running, they're doing ab work, etc. Now, how much strength training should I be doing? Should I be doing a 5-day-a-week program or a split? Or what do you really recommend in terms of output for a combat athlete?
Yeah, the closer you get to a competition, the less focus or the fewer days in the gym you're going to spend on your strength training. Because
so if I'm like, let's say 12 weeks out, 3 to 4 months out, what would I be focusing on?
Then if you're doing your strength training for 3 short, intense workouts a week, that's plenty. Right. And then as you get in closer, you're in the last pre-comp.
Last
6 to 8 weeks even. Right. Then you can cut that down to, if you're getting 1 or 2 good full body strength training workouts a week, that's fine. But then your emphasis is going to change more towards your power, explosiveness, and your conditioning.
So with the 3 phases that we've got, the strength, the power, and the conditioning, I will be training them all 3 at once in the same workout.
Yep.
But as I get more towards competition, I will, let's say, lighten the loads on the strength component, or I'll just reduce the total days.
Reduce the frequency, reduce the total days and the total volume. So you're going to focus when you're in off season.
Yeah.
You're going to be focusing a lot more on your strength training. That's going to build you the base that we talked about.
Yes.
That can help you develop that musculature, that strength, those motor patterns, so that you can start to work on your explosiveness training later. Also, building a very good strength base is excellent for preventing injury. So we want to, that's one of the big things for longevity in a sport is just don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And a stronger athlete, like I said, can become a faster athlete.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get that backwards and they'll just think, I want to be quick, so I'm just going to start doing power movements, Olympic lifting movements right off the bat.
Right.
But if you don't have that strength base, you're asking for injury. And it's very hard to recruit those muscles in the proper motor pattern explosively.
To get the explosion.
So your focus in the off season is going to be primarily on strength training with very little on your explosiveness, your power training. Once you build up that base, we can start to work on technique primarily with explosive power movements.
Okay.
Once you get your technique down, then we can start to work on really loading that and getting explosive, building some good solid power with that.
Okay.
Your conditioning work, you're doing a lot of that already with your technical training, with the pad work, with your
that's right.
sparring and whatnot. So you're going to get a lot of conditioning, but I'm going to show you some ways you can incorporate conditioning into your workouts as well outside of your sparring.
Yeah, so what we're going to have is we're going to have a link to a document in the video description below that is at least going to outline how to work with the exercises in this video and how to incorporate them, let's say, over like a 12 to 16 week period, so you have a little more specifics that we won't spend too much time talking about in the video.
Right. So we're not going to go through a full program in that, but it'll give you ideas of what you're going to focus on as far as strength, building that into power explosiveness, and then just pre-competition, primarily your conditioning and your technical work.
All right, cool.
All right.
Yeah, so let's get into it and show these guys some of the exercises.
Sounds good. We're going to start off with strength training. So I'm going to show you 2 or 3 good strength training exercises.
But before we get into strength training, we got to do a good warm-up. So Josh is going to take us through his killer warm-up. I think you guys are going to like it. Before every workout.
I would even recommend doing this before your technical training too. Like, this is a dynamic warm-up and core activation. Yeah, first things first.
First things first.
All right,
let's
do it. Okay, so the key to a dynamic warm-up is progressively increasing your range of motion and your speed through a series of movements that get your joints moving in all different directions, okay? Specifically related to what you're going to be doing in the ring or when you're fighting. So we're going to start off with some lower body and core movements. We're going to get up to upper extremity, and then we're going to finish with some midsection activation exercises. Okay, so first of all, working into a walking lunge. So we're just going to do a regular walking lunge pattern down and back. Good. Nice. So we're starting off with the slower movements, just getting some hip mobility going, incorporating all the muscles through his lower extremity, hips, and there's definitely some core involvement here too. About 10 to 15 seconds per drill is plenty. Good. So the dynamic variation from this, we're going to move into a high knees. So we're going to be walking with the knees coming up. Okay, again, slow, controlled. And then progressively increasing the range of motion and speed. So on the way down this next set, you're going to add that power, that skip, which you started off with there. So try and get some explosiveness off that lead leg. Pop, up, good. Remember, progress at your own rate with this. About 10 to 15 seconds is usually enough, but if you're tight in those hips, start low and slow, and then gradually build up range and speed. Good. Now we're going to go into fast high knees. So just running with your knees up. Pop, 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 pop. There you go. Good. This is not only going to help warm you up, your heart rate and your breathing is going to increase, but we're firing up the nervous system, getting your body ready for the workout. All right. Excellent. Now we're going to go into, we did the flexion exercises, we're going to go into extension with butt kicks, walking butt kicks to start. Slow and low. If you got tight quads, your hip flexors are tight, start off with just a low range of motion, and then gradually increase the range, trying to get your heels up to kick your butt. Excellent. 10 to 15 seconds, or you're feeling like things are warming up, move it into a jogging butt kick. Pick up the pace, kick the butt. Good. Excellent. Nice and light on the feet, quick feet. Nice. We did front, we did back. Now we want to do some lateral work. So we're going to go into side squats, like wide sumo squats. Side stepping, good. Every time you step out, your ass goes back. So we don't want the knees shooting forward. We want the hips getting involved in here. And again, watch it, your knees track over your feet. We don't want those knees coming in, knock kneed. Okay, this is going to get those hips involved, the glute med, the adductors, inner thigh are going to be moving. Good. Huge for injury prevention. Good. Now you can progress the range of motion by doing a side step with all of your weight on that lead leg and then pressing off. Side step, shift over, straight leg, drive through. Try that. Okay, we're still working with it. Good. The slow speed. We're going to progress this up to a dynamic variation next. How's that feel? He's really going to be feeling that the lead leg right in the glute and hip. It's going to be really opening up the adductors in the following leg. Now this is the way you want to warm up to prepare for your sport or any kind of workout, as opposed to passive stretching. Passive stretching, unfortunately, can increase risk of injury. So doing all those hamstring stretches or leaning in the door frame and forcing those stretches can actually increase the risk of injury by dampening your nervous system and making things looser and weaker. So leave that till after the workout. Okay, so we did the slow controlled movements laterally. Now we want to pick up the pace and do a side shuffle. All right, so all the way down and back. Make sure you do both directions. So whatever leg you're leading with in one direction, you change and you lead with the opposite leg and the other way back. One more time back and front. Good. Excellent. Another variation of this is the karaoke or the grapevines. One leg in front, one leg behind. You want to try that? Touch in front, back. You got it. Good. Down and back. The key is that he started off slow and low, built up that range and that speed. Excellent. One more time, back and down. Good. All right, now we want to get into, you're warmed up, you started slow and low, now we're going to build up your speed. We're going to do leg swings, opposite arm to opposite leg. Stay nice and tall, you don't have to round forward. Good, and reach across to the opposite side. So your lower back will be moving with this. You're getting your hamstrings opened up. Again, hips, you're getting to gradually progress that range of motion. Much safer to perform a dynamic warm-up like this for the hamstrings rather than a passive stretch where you're forcing the stretch. Actively work those muscles. Good. All right, so we're going to get the upper body now just with some slow arm circles forward, gradually increasing the range of motion. So doing a dynamic warm-up like we just looked at here is a much safer way to gradually progress your range of motion into a workout rather than traditional passive stretching. You'll see a lot of people lying down, doing that hamstring stretch or getting in the door frame and forcing that stretch. Unfortunately, there's a much higher risk of injury with that kind of stretching. You want to leave that till after the workout. Focus on actively doing a dynamic warm-up to prep those muscles for the workout, get that range of motion, get your heart rate up, and your nervous system is ramped up and ready to go. All right, so next thing we want to do is get down on the floor and do some activation work for the core. This is just isometric exercises. Okay, we're going to start off with a basic plank. So lock yourself in from your feet to your forearms, pelvic tilt inwards, really lock in those abs. There it is, boom. Okay, your butt's tight. Your stomach muscles are tight. Only again, 10 to 15 seconds. What we're working on here is not fatiguing the muscles, but activating them by strongly contracting them for a few seconds before your workout. Feel those core muscles? Excellent. See if you can lift one leg off. Good. And switch to the other leg. Good. So it's good to focus on each leg independent as well so you can see if there's an imbalance left or right. And relax. Lying down in your stomach, working into a prone cobra. This is a back extension with your palms facing the floor. So in our flexion-dominated society, we spend a lot of time rounded forward. We want to open that up before we start getting into your sparring. So bring the arms along the side of your body. Open up and retract the shoulder blades, arching up. Good. Legs stay relaxed. Focusing on the upper body here. Very nice. Good. Try to tuck your chin in a bit so the traps are relaxed. Reach down. Good. Working that mid-back. Good. You know, even with fighters, you spend a lot of time in this position here, so we want to make sure that the antagonist or the opposite muscles are also strong and stable, so you're balanced. Looks good, man. Let's go on to the flying dog. That's on the hands and knees. Well, let's call it Superman. Sounds a little better. All right, opposite arm, opposite leg. Good. Nice long body. So here you want to think long. Rather than reaching up, you're reaching out. Good. Core tight, butt engaged, shoulder working. 10, 15 seconds, and you're going to switch to the other side. Switch it up. Nice. Long body, easy. And again, you may find one side you're locked in, the other side you're pretty unstable. So it's good to pay attention to where those imbalances are. And now let's move into a side plank. Okay, so again, just 10-15 seconds. We're not trying to actually get a real training effect out of this. We're just trying to wake shit up through your midsection, lock in those muscles through the lower back and the obliques. Hips up a little bit higher. There. I want you to be straight from your head through to your feet. And other side. Good. So you may be comfortable with legs crossed like this, or you could try putting this foot on the ground, putting this foot on top, lock it in, bring it up. Good. Straight through, head straight. Good. Make sure that your shoulder is right over your elbow, so you're nice and locked in through the back. Good. And you should feel that down through the side, through your obliques and lower back. And relax. Good. Onto your back. Okay, next up we have the glute bridge. So lying on your back, press through the heels, lift the butt. Good. Make sure you're contracting your glutes strongly, and I should be able to draw a straight line from your knee down to your shoulders. Good. That's nicely locked in. So again, we spend a lot of time sitting. We want to make sure that those hip flexors are opened up and the glutes are engaged before we start to get into your workout or your fight. All right, extend one leg and see if you can hold the hips stable there without rocking the hips. Good. So now he's focusing on that right glute independent of the other one. And again, we may have an imbalance left to right. We want to try and straighten that out before we train. And switch it up. Very good. And relax. And the last one leg straight out, other leg crossed over. And relax that leg on the ground. And you're just going to bring that all the way over. Don't force it. We're not doing passive stretch. We want to do actively hold that. So just engage your core and bring that leg over. And just hold that rotation for about 10-15 seconds. Squeezing your abs, pushing the knee across. This is going to help wake up those deep core muscles, your transverse abs. And switch sides. One leg straight out in the ground, other leg crossed over, bring the hip across, engage the core. Good, so you notice that we're not doing any sort of forced or passive stretching with this, any of these warm-up exercises. Everything's active. We're doing some isometric work with this, and with the dynamic work, we're doing progressive range of motion. Excellent, you're good to go. Good. All right, so now we're looking at the strength component. We're going to look at just a couple of exercises here, opposite or push-pull movements, starting off with the pull-up or a chin-up. Now, one of the reasons we want to incorporate a strong pulling movement for fighters is that often your power in striking or your forward movement is limited by your weakness in your posterior chain. We definitely want to think about the muscles back behind us here, all right? So with a pull-up, we're going to be looking at this a strong, forceful pull, pause at the top, and control the negative. Okay, full range of motion. Squeeze and control down, full stretch. Squeeze all the way up, control down. Good. Small pause at the top if you can. Really focus on driving those elbows down into towards your hips. Nice. So we're using a neutral grip here. This can be also performed with wide overhand grip, which is a little more challenging, or an underhand grip, which tends to be a little easier, a little more bicep involvement. Good. Nice. How do you feel? Good. Let's do it. Another one. Up, up, up. Good. Keeping your chest open. Try not to roll forward at the top. We want to get those shoulders back and really make sure you're involving your back muscles, not just your arms. Excellent.
So for progression, how is a fighter going to progress with this over the months and again potentially load?
Yes. So to load the exercise, you'd want to add resistance in the form of, the easiest way is using a weight belt. So that's a belt with the chain added, you just throw weight on it. With the body weight exercises, that's the easiest way to progress it. Some of the benefits of using body weight exercises or free weight exercises for fighters versus machines, not to say that machines are bad, but body weight exercises allow a little bit more range of motion, a little bit more stabilizing in the joints, so you're going to get a little bit more of those proprioceptive muscles, small muscles around the joints involved, and you're moving your body through spaces, which is what you're doing in your sport, rather than just being anchored stationary and moving a piece of machinery. So there may be a little bit more carryover with free weight or body weight exercises for fighters. All right, so
sets and rep progression.
Right. So to progress this is a good question. Over the period of 4 to 6 weeks, when you're doing a progression, we want to increase resistance. Now you can adjust rep ranges according to that. So you may start off with reps in the 12 to 15 rep range, fairly high, for 3 sets. Following week or two, when you're ready, go up to 4 sets of only 10 reps but your weight goes up, so you add resistance. And then after that, you go to 4 sets of 8 reps, and then 6 sets of 6 reps with even more weight at the end of the program. Another thing you want to think about is if you're not strong enough to perform a pull-up, there's a regression you can do with this exercise, and that's an inverted row. So you could use like a TRX straps or just get under a bar and do like an opposite or an inverse push-up basically. So it's a body weight row movement. So that would be a good way to build up, gradually build up towards being able to do a chin-up. So we did a good pulling movement here. How about we move over to a push movement with the dips, and I would recommend pairing these up as a superset. So you do your pull-up, dip, back and forth for your recommended number of sets. All right, so the second exercise we're going to be looking at is dip. So we did a pull movement. We want to couple that with a push movement. Like I said, I really like to work with antagonist supersets. There's a lot of variations for strength training, but let's work with a push-pull pattern here, okay? It helps keep the intensity up and works the muscles in balance. So with a dip, we want to come to at least a 90-degree angle at the elbows. This may be limited by your shoulder flexibility. As long as you can keep your muscles engaged throughout, you're not passively stretching the joints, you're good. All right, so on the negative or the descent, you want to go twice as slow as on the up. So control down and then press through. That slight forward lean will help you to get more chest involvement. So we want to work as many upper body muscles as possible. Like we said, the focus is going to be on compound exercises to start. Multi-joint, multiple muscle exercises. Good. We're working in that 6 to 12 rep range depending on what point of the program you're at. Nice. Feeling that through chest, shoulders, tries?
Oh yeah.
All right.
I'm at 12 now.
Good.
Okay, so other options for this, if somebody is really strong, would be weighted dips.
Then you can add a dip belt. There's a number of different ways you can load it. Some people like to hold dumbbells between their legs or between their feet. I find the easiest is just to get a dip belt, which is that nylon or leather belt with a chain on it. And then you throw a plate on there and you progressively add load that way.
And if dips are a little bit too challenging, then the other option would be
I would just look at a basic push-up. And there's a lot of different ways to progress push-ups, from at an angle down to like the floor, and then you can progress with your knees coming up as well, or your feet coming up. So here we just looked at a couple of upper body exercises that you can use in your strength training program. Of course, you do want to include lower body exercises like lunge or squat patterns, stiff leg deadlifts, some work for the hamstrings, the posterior chain. But we're just going to leave it for these as a sample of what we're looking at today. So you get an idea of how to work with push-pull exercises, how to progress the set and reps, and how you can progress the resistance. But let's definitely incorporate a lower body exercise when we look at the power explosiveness section, all right?
Cool.
All right, let's get on to that now.
Awesome. All right, so now we're on to the power phase. Josh, if you could break it down and tell us a little bit about that and what we're going to do here.
Sure, so like I talked about, we want to start with that strength base, build that base of strength before we get on to exercises that require explosive, fast movements, okay? The faster you go, the more risk of injury. First thing we want to do when we start looking at explosive or power movements is look at your technique. So start with light load, and you can start off with a little higher rep range just to grease the groove, to get used to those motor patterns, all right? So let's assume that you've been doing this for a while and you're getting comfortable with the movements. We're going to look at a 3 to 6 rep range, really trying to generate speed.
So in the power phase, I'm looking at lower reps.
Low reps,
3 to 6 range, but high
explosive.
Explosive, high quality.
Yeah, and we're trying not to reach fatigue. With the strength training,
I don't want to reach fatigue.
With strength training, we do want to hit fatigue. We want to get that last rep should almost be a grind. With the power, we don't ever want to get to a point where we start to slow down, because then we're not working in the fast twitch fibers like we want to in this. So
everything's got to come up.
Right. So again, we don't want to necessarily make this sport specific by duplicating the exact exercise you're doing striking. We want to work those same motor patterns. We want to work those same muscles that we're required to be explosive with these exercises. So we're going to look at a lower body movement and an upper body dominant movement, starting off with a jump squat. So let's look at first unloaded. So if we don't mind that, you can face me, and we're just going to look at the basic squat. Feet at least shoulder width or slightly wider. You don't want to go too wide with the jump, because think about when you're trying to jump over something. You're not going to jump with your feet way out here. So it's not like a power squat. So even a little closer, shoulder width approximately, and you want to get the hips back. Now with a power movement or a jump squat, you don't necessarily need to get all the way down ass to grass, okay? So if you come down to a 90-degree angle or even a half squat, that's fine. And then power through, reaching your arms down the side of the body. Good. Now it's not right or wrong whether you extend arms back behind you or start with your arms back and extend your arms up. I find this to be much more comfortable. Good. Make sure that when you land, you're landing soft. So you're sinking into the squat not landing stiff-legged and then squatting. Excellent, good. So this is going to help you train that triple extension, ankle, knee, and hip extension. Boom, exploding through, and that's important for fighters because when you throw that strike like you did your jab and you're coming in through your cross, you want to pivot on the ankle, knee, and hip, pop, and that power is all coming from that hip. So we want to train those muscles so that when you're using them in your sport, you're going to hurt the guy right next to you. All right, cool. Let's look at this with a little bit of load. Now, when you start to put load on your back, this becomes a little bit higher risk, so you want to make sure you're hugging that bar in tight to your body, not letting it move around, and you're starting again with light load, staying explosive in the 3 to 6 rep range. Ease the hips back, power. Land soft, explode up. Good, not too wide with the feet. Boom, good. And again, you don't have to go super deep when you're working on explosiveness and power. Nice, easing it down each rep, and explosively driving off, trying to go for height. Good. How do you feel?
I feel it.
Nice.
Exhilarated.
So I definitely want again to do some ground-based exercises. You know, striking is a ground-based sport. You're on your feet, and we want to work with ideally body weight and free weight movements, not necessarily having you sit on a machine for when we're working on power.
So progression with this, we're looking at 3 to 4 sets of 6 reps.
Yeah, you can progressively increase the volume and the weight. So a number of sets. Increase the number of sets, but keeping it in that 3 to 6 rep range.
3 of 6, then maybe go up to like 6 of 6, and then if I'm solid there, then maybe add the weight and go back to 3 of 6.
Exactly, you can progress it up. Now, exactly, so you're working on, if you're only doing 3 or 4 reps, you can gradually increase the number of reps, so you can do 6, and then you can add load and go back down to 3 as well over the period. Yeah,
yes,
and yeah, keeping the sets are in the 3 to 5 sets, that's fine. So the main thing we want to look at here is that you're staying explosive, you're moving quickly. If you're adding so much load that you start to slow down, you're grinding out of the squat and then doing a pop at the top, we're defeating the purpose. We want to be explosive right from the bottom, accelerate all the way through until your feet leave the ground. All right, so now we're going to look at an upper body movement. We're going to do a push press, so we're still working with that explosive extension, but we're going to get the upper body involved here.
All right, nice.
Okay, so we're moving on to the next power movement, which is the overhead push press. So in this exercise, we want to get hip involvement to carry over into an upper body push movement. So we're going to be carrying over from what we looked at with the jump squat. We're going to be doing powerful hip extension that drives through right through to the arm. So if you can start with your dumbbells at shoulder height, this could be performed with dumbbells or barbell, kettlebells for that matter if you wanted. The form of resistance isn't as important as the movement pattern itself. All right, so dumbbells right at shoulder height, explosively drive through the hips to upper body. Good. So your feet stay on the ground here. You're not going to be doing ankle extension, but you are doing that powerful hip knee extension. Good. Drive. Looks good. So if you weren't gripping strongly onto those dumbbells, you would see them fly right out of his hands. Some work going down over here. Yeah. So let's get in the second set here. So what I would do here is pair this up in either a strength circuit or a superset. So let's say he's come back around and this is second set through. Good. Working in 3 to 6 rep range. So since we're just getting used to the movement here, he can work with a little higher reps, lower weight, and just get used to that explosive movement pattern. Next, how'd it feel? Good. Next. So really driving that weight. You don't want to get the weight so heavy or get to a point of fatigue where you're starting to slow down and grind it. Make sense?
Oh yeah.
All right,
solid,
cool.
Solid.
Good.
So we got anything else for power movements?
You know what? I would like to just look at a core movement, a core specific exercise for power, a rotational pattern, because that will have a good carryover for fighters as well.
And yeah, we got a couple ways we're going to show that, strength and power.
Yeah, we're going to look at how you can, again, like I talked about, build that base of strength first before you start moving fast. So we're going to do this with a slow, controlled strength movement, and then progressively moving into explosive power movement, and we'll look at a couple different angles. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right. I'm Hans.
And Franz.
This is my brother Franz. We're here to pump
You up.
you up. So this is the core exercise I wanted to introduce as a rotational pattern. I like doing it with bands because of the accommodating resistance. So with this, I want to first introduce an isometric or a static exercise, like we did with the core activation at the beginning, the planks and side planks, etc. So with this, I just want you to do a press out. This is called a Palov press. I think some Russian dude came up with it. So you're really bracing or locked in from your core muscles here, and let it back in. So aiming for about 5 reps of 5 seconds per rep. So hold it out, hold, 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 back in, 5 times 5. Bring it out, lock it in. You should really feel this in your deep core muscles. So you're really bracing, activating all of those core muscles. And one more, and then you always want to make sure you repeat on the opposite side. So you're training the body and balance, obviously. Good. This is going to have a really big carryover to your power and your stability with rotation. Good. Almost feel like, focus on like drawing your belly button in towards your spine. So really locking it in. Good. Feel that? Yeah. So when he has his arms out in front, he's creating that long lever. So this is creating a lot more torque. So a lot more resistance. He's relaxed and then he's resisting. Good. All right, so the next progression would be to do this as a strength movement. So now we're going to look at rotation, actually moving across the body, but we want to still lock this in right in front of your sternum. So come out a little bit so that you can, yeah, just increase it, there you go. So you can come right across and then, yeah, and then pivot from the waist and turn your whole body through. Good, and then back through. So we're not moving your arms separate from the body. You're locking it in and moving your arms with the upper extremity. So the movement's coming from here, it's being initiated from core. Nice. And let's do a few on the other side. Good. Great core exercise. Make sure you train both sides. You want to make sure we're getting the body in balance. And also you may notice you have a dominant side, you're stronger rotation one side versus the other. And that's pretty common with fighters, you know, for right-handed fighters are stronger, usually rotating to the left. And vice versa. The better balance you have, the more rotation you're going to have. All right, I'm going to hammer this guy with explosive variation. Now normally you would do these on different days, but the power movement, the power variation is to make this a dynamic or an explosive exercise similar to what we just did, except now you're going to be exploding across and controlling back. Power. Yeah, so here you're going to actually get some pivoting on your foot, similar to if you're throwing or striking. So your hip and your foot are going to pivot as you bring the weight, the resistance across. Boom. Nice. Power. Good. Pop. Nice. Good. So he's locked in from the core. He's getting that hip pushing through. Good. You're definitely going to feel this through your midsection. And good. But you're
6 to 8 reps.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, you can even work in the 8 to 10 rep range with this. When you're doing your strength variation, you're going to be in the 6 to 12. When you're doing your power, you can be a little lower rep range, but explosive. Yeah, it'll throw you off your feet. So you're also gaining a lot of stability from training this. When you want to train for stability, a lot of people get on Bosu balls and wobble boards and whatnot. Really, with a ground-based sport, for fighters, your feet should be planted on the ground. If you want to train unstable, you want to do something that destabilizes the upper extremity, holding weight overhead, resistance bands with your feet grounded. That's the best way to get that stability. That's awesome. That's good, man. Let's leave it at that.
All right.
Good. All right, so now we're moving on to the conditioning exercises. So with conditioning, we want to work with interval training. High intensity interval training is the key for fighters. You're working with short bouts of explosive endurance in the match. So we're not trying to do marathon, hour-long runs at a slow, low intensity. We want short bursts of high intensity exercise. So this can be done with just jumping jacks and burpees and skipping rope, no problem. But we're gonna look at some cool variations. If you have access to a tire or something you can hammer down in a sledgehammer, this is one of my faves for fighters as far as conditioning. We wanna work with bouts of about 30 to 40 seconds of high intensity exercise with around 1 minute to 2 minutes max recovery, low intensity exercise. So with the hammer, let's get at it. Yeah, so we want to rotate around low across the body and end up overhead and then come down with powerful flexion. So full extension at the top, full flexion. So straighten out as you come back overhead. Good. You're having that mixed grip, one hand above the other, and make sure you train the dumb side as well as the smart side. Good. Come up, full extension overhead. So follow through right from overhead to a powerful slam. Good. Extend fully, slam, flex hard. Nice. Punish it. Good. That tire's not going to want to pick a fight with you again. There we go. So again, we're not duplicating the movements you're gonna do in the ring, but we're having exercises that have a strong carryover. How'd that feel? Heart rate's up, right? Good. So now you just do either jumping jacks, mountain climbers, marching on the spot, just some shadow boxing. Keep your heart rate up for about a minute or so, and then you're going to attack that again for another 30 to 40 second explosive bout. Let's look at another conditioning exercise you can do as an alternative.
All right, Josh, so we're on to the next conditioning exercise, the high intensity interval training. Can you give me some more details about what we're going to do here?
Sure. We're going to look at another unique implement you can use for high intensity interval training for your conditioning workouts, and this is some sled drag and sled push variations. So we're going to start off with the sled push. I call this the prowler, so it looks similar to like a football drill you might see. This is really good for driving into opponent, really good particularly for grapplers and wrestlers, but definitely great for conditioning, for boxing, get it for your forward drive. So we're going to look at a sled push, and then we're going to look at sled drag going backwards. Exactly. All right, so let's get on the sled. First, you want to have your arms out extended out in front of you. You want to have your legs extended back behind you, and you want quick, short steps. So fast feet, and go. Drive, 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 drive. Good, staying low to the ground. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your hips down. Good. That's it, nice and low to the ground. Keep the sled out in front of you. So we want to do laps back and forth so you can hit approximately 30 seconds. There you go. Burn. All right, we're all hooked up for the sled drag. So we got some straps here. We want your arms straight out in front of you. You're going to be leaning slightly backward, angled slightly backward, arms straight, shoulders back, feet closer together. And same thing, quick feet driving backwards. Good, pump it. You got it, keep going. Go, 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 go. And stop, good, bring it around. Come on back. Leaning slightly back. There you go. So he's at a slight angle backwards, arms out in front, fast feet, and collapse. Excellent. So not everyone obviously would have access to equipment like this, but you could use just bodyweight drills like we mentioned before, mountain climbers, jumping jacks, you can do burpee push-ups,
skipping rope,
skip rope, yeah, so medicine ball slams. Yes. So there's a lot of different variations you can do.
You don't have this kind of
right, with equipment, you know, with your own bodyweight or equipment you have around your boxing gym. Okay, so we're going to move on to the final exercise now, another upper body dominant conditioning drill. This is something I really like to use for fighters because most conditioning exercises tend to focus on lower body, right? But you can actually gas out for your upper extremity. And so, yeah, so you need some endurance work. So, but if we incorporate that into our conditioning exercises, it has a great carryover. So we're going to do, we did the sledgehammer drills. We're going to look at battle rope now.
Awesome. All right, Josh, so now we're going to be working with the battle rope. Can you tell me what the protocol is for this section?
Sure, and just to let you know, these go by a few different names. Some people call them tornado ropes, but the main thing is we're going to be getting in a few drills with the ropes to get that heart rate up and get in that, finish off your high intensity interval training workout. What we're going to be doing starting off is both arms together, so we're going to be making a wave with both arms together all the way down, keeping continuous motion on the rope, making waves all the way down. So you want a little bit of slack in the rope, so you can do that. You also want to be able to keep yourself in an athletic ready position with your core engaged and your arms moving loose with the rope. The second wave we're going to be doing alternate, left, right. There's a number of different drills you can do with it. Those are two basic ones we're going to look at. You ready?
Cool. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so now we're going to set up for the second drill, which is alternating arms. Remember, if you're doing this as part of your conditioning workout, you want to spend at least 15-20 minutes alternating high intensity and low intensity. Okay, so 30-second sprints with about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute recovery in between. All right, so exactly, keep it moving. And then when you're ready for your next high intensity interval, we're going to pump it out with the alternating arms. All right, ready? And go. 1, 2, 1, 2. There you go, just like you're beating drums. Good, good one. Nice, this is a really good one for working on your coordination as well. A lot of people have a hard time doing these alternate movements. And time. Good.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed all that information and can put that to good use in your combat training, working through those different phases. Now, make sure to click on the link below to check out Josh's channel. I'm going to leave a link in the video description below, and make sure to subscribe as well. Also, make sure to check out his website. What's your website again?
It's top-form-fitness.com. So if you just search Josh Hewett, Top Form Fitness, you'll find me. And also,
I'm going to leave a link in the description below as
Perfect.
well, so that's going to be down there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Everything's on my YouTube channel here too.
Yeah, so, check out the YouTube, check out the website in the description below.
Awesome.
And also, click on the link in the video description below to get an outline of this program.
Yeah, download that thing, the full outline here. That'll give you a good base to start with. If you have any other questions, obviously, post them on one of our channels and we'll be happy to answer them. Just remember the fundamentals, with what we went through with the strength training, the speed power training, and your conditioning work. If you get those down, you can play with the variables there.
The other thing too as well is that since Josh is working as a trainer for physique transformation and other aspects of fitness, also contact him if you're looking at fitness goals for dropping weight, or other goals that are outside of combat. This video is focused on combat, but you can also contact him for other information in the personal training and fitness realm.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we were talking about doing this sort of to help you prep for a competition as well, and for making weight, and that's a big thing too. When fighters are trying to make weight, often their strength can be compromised along the way. So that's one thing I really work with athletes on, is getting their body weight down without sacrificing lean muscle tissue or strength and power.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Peace. 1, 2, 3. We'll do a little clap.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. All right.
Pump you up.
We have to pump you up. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say thanks for watching, and then I want you to punch the camera. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to go